Hi, my name is Jamie Eisenberg.
This is Rachel Hester.
And I am Jake Gimateo, and today we will be talking about athlete violence. We will go through a few cases in which top athletes have been in the mix of violence, talk about our experts' opinion and ideas on athlete violence, talk about the types of violence there are, and then close it off with ways we think athlete violence can be prevented and decrease in how often they happen. So we'll start off with the first case with Trevor Bauer. Trevor Bauer is a MLB starting pitcher who has played in the league for 10 years. Trevor Bauer was drafted third overall in the 2011 MLB draft by the Arizona Diamondbacks, getting selected over players such as Francisco Lindor, Javier Baez, Brandon Nimmo, and George Springer. In 2020, Trevor Bauer won the MLB National League Cy Young Award, which declared him best pitcher in all of the National League for 2020. Due to his success in 2020, going into the 2021 season, Trevor Bauer signed a 3-year, $102 million contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. After pitching for only 17 games, though, Trevor Bauer was placed on administrative leave due to a woman coming out and claiming that she was sexually assaulted by him. The woman who accused Trevor Bauer of the sexual assault said, "I agreed to have consensual sex. However, I did not agree or consent to what he did next. I did not agree to be sexually assaulted." The woman, who was Lindsay Hill, released graphic photos of herself after the sexual interactions with Trevor Bauer that are disgusting to look at. When the case went to court, all the charges were dropped against Trevor Bauer due to an insufficient amount to rule in favor of Lindsay Hill. After the charges were dropped, the MLB reduced Trevor Bauer's 324-game ban to 194 games, and he was reinstated immediately. Unfortunately for Trevor Bauer, though, the Los Angeles Dodgers have released him from his contract for making him eligible for any team to now pick him up. After 1 month, he has yet to be picked up, and due to no MLB team wanting his name on their rosters, Trevor Bauer has now decided to take his talent outside the country, and he has just signed a deal with the Japanese Central League.
Okay, so this is Rachel Hester. I'm going to be talking about Hope Solo's case. So, before joining the national team in 2000, she played for a U.S. junior national soccer team, which then led her to come into the national USA women's soccer team. She was a goalkeeper between the years 2000 and 2016. She was a World Cup champion and a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. In 2011 and 2015, she won the FIFA World Cup Golden Glove Award due to her caps, wins, shutouts, and starts over any other goalkeeper in U.S. history. But soon spiraled on March 31st in 2022 when she was arrested in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where she had fallen asleep in the car at a Walmart parking lot with her husband Jeremy Stevens and 2-year-old twins Lausanne and Victoria. In July 2022, she had pled guilty for driving while impaired with damaged charges of resisting arrest and a misdemeanor in child abuse. So then went on to tell E! News in 2020 that she let the alcohol get the best of her in the decision that she will never live down. She says that it has came to a great cost of her and her family. During her guilty plea to the DUI, she asked the induction to the Hall of Fame be deferred until 2023, which suspended the sentence of 24 months with an active sentence of 30 days and was fined $2,500 and $600 worth of lab tests, as well to undergo substance abuse assessments and complete suggested treatments and surrender her driver's license. She also went on to tell E! News that we were exhausted day in and day out. Winding down with a drink was nice, and it's what we looked forward to doing as well. the drinking slowly increased. We found that it eased the stresses of our everyday lives and felt that we had the right to do so. She then ends this statement with, "There is no shame if we struggle with alcohol or addiction. Thank you to the beautiful men and women who have taught me this."
Hi, this is Jamie. Today I'm going to be talking about the Chad Johnson case. Chad Johnson is a former NFL wide receiver who played for the Cincinnati Bengals, New England Patriots, and the Miami Dolphins. In 2012, Johnson was arrested and charged with domestic violence after allegedly headbutting his wife, reality TV star Evelyn Lozada. According to reports, the incident occurred during an argument between the couple over a receipt for a box of condoms that Lozada had found in Johnson's car. The argument escalated and Johnson headbutted Lozada, causing a laceration on her forehead. Johnson was immediately arrested and charged with domestic violence. He was sentenced for 1 year of probation, domestic violence counseling, and community service. As a result of the incident, Johnson was also released from his contract with the Miami Dolphins. The incident was highly publicized and brought attention to the issue of domestic violence in the NFL. Johnson's career was significantly impacted, and he struggled to find a team willing to sign to him after the incident. Johnson did have a brief stint with the Montreal Alouettes of the Canadian Football League in 2014, but he was released after just 1 season. He then attempted to make a comeback to the NFL, participating in tryouts with several teams, but was not signed. Ultimately, he officially retired from football in 2015, citing a lack of interest from the NFL teams as the result of his retirement. As far as how the NFL handled the event, the NFL has a personal conduct policy that applies to all players and coaches, and the league investigates and punishes any violations of this policy. In Johnson's case, the NFL suspended him for the first game of the 2012 season, and he was also placed on probation for a year. However, some people criticize the NFL's handling of the case, arguing that the punishment was too lenient considering the seriousness of the allegations. Others praised the NFL for taking action and sending a message that domestic violence would not be tolerated. Ultimately, whether or not the NFL did a good job handling the Chad Johnson case is subjective and open to interpretation. As a group, we do believe the NFL handled this case well, considering they followed the personal conduct policy and teams did not sign him after. If he had signed to a new team, we would definitely feel differently.
And to close off the cases, we're going to look at the Floyd Mayweather Jr. case. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is arguably one of the greatest professional boxers of all time, going undefeated, holding multiple championships, and having a record of 49-0 in his career of boxing. He made his boxing debut at the age of 19 years old, and he fought until the age of 38. And now that he's retired, he only participates in exhibition boxing matches, with his last 2 opponents he faced being YouTube stars Logan Paul and Deji. In 2011, Floyd Mayweather Jr. was sentenced to 6 months in prison, which was later reduced to 3 months, on charges of domestic violence against his ex-wife. Aside from his 3 months in jail, Floyd Mayweather Jr. is also fined $2,500, required to attend 12 months at a domestic violence program, and 100 hours of community service. On one occasion, Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s 10-year-old son stated that his mother was getting physically attacked by Mayweather. His ex-girlfriend and mother of his 3 children, Josie Harris, had to get treated by the hospital after one of Mayweather's many domestic assaults against her. He once even allegedly told her, "I'm going to kill you and that man that you are messing around with." Several assaults were reported on multiple occasions between 5 different women, which police reported to, but no charges were ever filed. Whenever Floyd Mayweather Jr. is asked about the charges or his past abusive behavior, he tends to use words such as hearsay or allegations, because he claims that there is never any photographic evidence to prove his abusive behavior.
Now we are going to discuss our interview with our expert. So for our interview, we met with lawyer Jamin Rubenstein. Mr. Rubenstein is not specifically a sport lawyer, but he offered us great insight into what goes into cases about sexual assault and violence. Rubenstein went to the University of Florida for undergrad and SIU for his graduate's degree. Throughout the duration of the interview, we asked several questions about cases he has dealt with pertaining to sexual assault and violence. We asked about his opinion of popular sport assault cases like the USA Gymnastics Larry Nassar case. He spoke to us about how most sexual assault and violence issues in sport stem from the systematic problems in the overarching industry. For instance, the entire corporation of USA Gymnastics was at fault. We also discussed the lack of media coverage on violence. For example, how the NFL was hiding information about brain trauma and long-term effects of the dangers of playing. He talked a lot about the correlation between violence from athletes and their experiences of home life growing up. He said, "You must be aware of the environment you grow up in and the consequences that come with that." He believes that naturally some athletes who grew up with a bad home life are far more likely to act out and be extremely aggressive in or out of sport. We asked if he believes that if one day there will be a way to make sport less violent. He explained to us that is simply not possible as it stems from how people grew up. Just like how everyone has different beliefs on certain topics, that's like asking if Americans will one day all agree on one political opinion. It simply just won't happen. He said what we can do, though, is continue educating athletes and coaches on violence in sport and try to make a difference. Also, having big corporations like the NFL or USA Gymnastics, or many more, be compliant with rules and regulations will help things get better.
All right, now we're going to talk about the different acts of violence in sport. So, in sport, there are multiple different classes and types of violence. It starts off with on-field and off-field violence, and those two are pretty self-explanatory. Then there are 4 different types of violence in sport, and the 4 different types in order of severity are brutal body contact, borderline, quasi-criminal, and criminal. And in determining what type of violence it is, the 3 C's come into play, and the 3 C's are contradictory, contextual, and constructedness. And each one of the C's are used to look in depth as to what happened during the acts of violence. All right, so wrapping things up, we're going to be talking about what we think could be done to prevent or decrease athlete violence. So personally, for me, I think it's a lot harder to decrease or prevent it from happening like on field, because like for certain sports, it's like very important, especially for fans, like looking at like baseball and hockey. There's nothing like watching the fights happen on the field, and it's a very important part of the game. But when it comes to off the field, I think there could be a lot harsher punishments, such as like longer suspensions or even permanent bans.
And then something as a society that we can talk about solving sport violence could be something as simple as educating our younger generation about when's a good time, so to say, for quote-unquote violence, as well as providing training about proper sportsmanship. And as Jamie talked about for her case, the code of conduct for players in the NFL.
All right, so to conclude, as a group, we came up with 5 ways that violence can be handled better in the sport industry. So professional sports leagues can take several steps to deal with violence more effectively. Our first way was really implementing and enforcing rules. Sports leagues can impose strict rules and regulations that prohibit violent behaviors by players and coaches, and penalties for violating these rules can be severe. So although teams already have these, it's really important that they're being implemented and enforced. Our second one was education and awareness. Sports leagues can educate players and coaches on the consequences of violent behavior and how to handle situations that may lead to violence. This can help players and coaches recognize the importance of avoiding violence and seek alternate ways of resolving conflict. Our third was improving security. Sports leagues can improve security at events to prevent violent incidences from occurring. This may involve increasing the number of security people, installing more cameras or metal detectors, and providing better training to security staff. Our fourth was reaching out to the community. So sports leagues can work with local community organizations to promote positive behavior and reduce violence in the community. This can include providing resources and support to at-risk youth, partnering with community centers to provide sports programs, and hosting events that can promote positive behavior. And then our fifth was transparency and accountability. So sports leagues can be more transparent about their policies and procedures for handling violent incidences, just like how we talked about with the NFL case about them not being very transparent about head injuries and brain trauma. So this can include releasing information about incidences, how they were handled, and providing regular updates to the public on the progress being made to address the issues. So to conclude, overall, professional sports teams need to take a more proactive approach to deal with violence better. By implementing these strategies and making a commitment to creating a safe and positive environment for all players and fans, sports leagues can reduce the incidence of violent behavior and create a more enjoyable experience for everyone involved.